we return to the shelter of each other, to arms that hold us in the midst of a storm, to voices that help us hear our own, to hearts that accept us for who we are. May we be for each other a source of safety and sending. May we offer each other both comfort and challenge. May the belonging we find here help us offer the same experience to others. May this time of blessing begin.
Good morning. My name is Leslie Pete. My pronouns are she and her. I am your worship associate this morning. As we light this chalice, we remember that belonging is not a place, but a promise to see one another as worthy, to offer space for each soul to be its full self. In the words of William Ellery Channing, the great end of life is not happiness, but to feel worthy of happiness. May this flame remind us that belonging comes out of our feelings of being worthy and seeing the worth in each person, worth in each moment we share, and worth in the community we build together. As the light grows, may we nurture a space where all are seen, heard, and valued, and may we continue to work the work of building a beloved and inclusive community. Our church shares a covenant that we make with one another, a promise that helps to remind us of why we gather and how we want to be with one another. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in saying our covenant together. We unite to strengthen the bonds of kinship among all persons, to promote human dignity, and to increase reverence for life's creating, sustaining, and transforming power through worship, study, and service. Please remain standing to sing our opening hymn, number 346, Come Sing a Song with Me.
Sometimes hymns bring back memories, and when I first started going to my first Unitarian church, this is one of the hymns they sang, and I thought it was so cool to sing a song that was just so different from everything we sang in the Catholic Church. So you don't have a lot of those. Yes, you don't have a lot of wiggles, yes. Well, now is our time for the young and young at heart to come up, and we might be thinking about what could be in our wonder box. So any little ones or young at heart want to come up and wonder? Maybe you heard today our service is about friendship. So I'm wondering if you could be thinking about for just a couple minutes, what could be in the box that represents friendship? You're peeking. I see you peeking. That's not guessing, that's peeking. All righty, so any guesses as to what could be in our, we need a different box, Karen. Sid. We'll let somebody else guess.
We grow curious minds here.
Okay. What did you think, William? You did peek.
I'm thinking, maybe like a very small teddy bear, possibly about the size of my hand.
Okay, small teddy bear, yes. A squirrel, what do you think? 2 squirrels hugging. Okay, let's open the box and see what could possibly be in there. Squirrels can sit up there. There we go. Since we're talking about friends, and since, okay guys, leave the squirrels out of the box. Thank you. There we go. Well, you know, since I have you guessed it correctly or you saw it through the cracks. One of the two. But what we will say is that I have gotten quite the collection of squirrels since last year, so we might as well use them. Here we go.
Hi, you all. So there are 2 squirrels. Why do you think the squirrels are hugging? Yeah?
Represents friendship.
Oh, it's a symbol of friendship. What were you going to say, Xander? Oh, a symbol of friendship. Anybody else? A symbol of friendship. Those are all good. What does it mean to have a friend? Yeah. That you have a friend. Having a friend, what it means to have a friend means that you have a friend. Okay, that's defining with the definition, but who else? Anybody here have friends? Yeah? You have friends? Everybody? What about you out there? Yeah? Okay, you back here? What do you do with your friends? Play. We play with our friends. That's awesome. Do you all play with your friends too? Of course. We make comics with our friends. That's awesome too. What do you do? Friends are family that you choose. Very important. So there once were the 2 people, Xander, there once were 2 people in the 1800s, a long time ago, who were super good friends. Their names were Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau. What do you notice about those names? They're big names, right? They get 3 names with every name that they get. That's so weird. I know. Well, Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau. So these 3... Oh, I know. I thought we were 6 friends. They could have been 6 friends all together, and maybe they were with the size lives that they lived. But the friends, what they did is they loved to do the same thing that you guys do. Maybe not the comics, but they loved to play together, and they loved to talk together and have a good time. And do you know they used to go on walks all the time together? Disgusting. I know, we might think it's disgusting too. But you know what? Ralph Waldo really, really liked Henry David because do you know what Henry David loved to do? He loved to be outside in nature. Just like if we were here, where Henry David would be is out in all of that stuff, picking stuff and looking at it and looking up at the sun and wandering around just like we always do, right? Like good friends, that's yes. And so, but they also were kind of friends that they liked to challenge one another. Do you ever meet with friends who sometimes say, hey, let's do this thing that might be a little uncomfortable for you? Anybody have that kind of friend? Do you do things that sometimes you're uncomfortable with? Nah. Sometimes. All your friends like the same thing. Does everybody like the same color? They all like the same color blue, or maybe they... We all like the color blue. Well, Henry David and Emerson did not do that. They had a different kind of relationship. I'm wondering, William, if you might have that kind of relationship where you have people who like to think way big thoughts outside the box. And what Henry liked was being outside, and what Emerson liked was thinking about ideas. And you know, the reason that we're talking about them today is because they were friends. They might have been like these squirrels hugging each other, but they also really loved being in a place where they would challenge one another. And do you know what Emerson said to Thoreau? He said, you know what? You need to get it together and be more organized, dude. He probably didn't use the word dude, but he said, you should be a little bit more organized. You love all of this nature stuff. Why aren't you writing about it and doing something and letting other people know about it? And Henry David was like, I don't want to think like outside the box. I want you to just agree with everything that I do. But then do you know what happened? On September 6th, 1847, a long, long time ago, he started writing this book that probably most people in this room have read, called On Walden Pond. And do you know what? Well, you read Captain Underpants. I don't think he wrote Captain Underpants, but he could have. Another good scholar might have. So, but you know, Henry David had a thing for Ralph Waldo as well. Ralph Waldo said, you should get more organized, David. And David said, you should have more courage. You should have more courage, Ralph Waldo. And do you know what? Ralph Waldo, on September 11th, 1832, he left his job. He left his job. And he left in order to be able to start a whole new religious movement. So you know what? Sometimes our friends are people that help us to be more than we were before. Sometimes our friends are the people who are willing to say, wait a second, maybe you should be thinking about this and this and this. Or maybe you should write something. And what we hope here in this space is that you're able to make friends here, no matter how old you are, that help you to be your best self by bringing up all of those ways that you don't necessarily see the world and can grow and be able to see differently. So today we're starting a new RE program, and I'm going to invite Reverend Pam up here because she's the one with the big, thing on her, stole on her thing, to help us to welcome and thank all of the teachers and all of you.
These are the folks that give up their Sundays and go and spend it back with our kids, teaching them amazing things. So on this first day of religious exploration classes, I want to take a moment to dedicate and commission those among us who have chosen to take the important responsibility of teaching our kids. At this time, these are our folks that are standing up here. Take a good look because you might not see them the whole rest of the year. To you, our teachers, in taking on this responsibility, you have committed yourselves to nurturing the spirits of the youngest members of this congregation. Do you promise now before them and this congregation to do your best to honor them, to teach them, and to nurture their religious growth as Unitarian Universalists? Just say, we do. We do. Thank you. And do you, the children and young people of our church school, promise, do you guys, listen, do you promise to honor and respect and nurture these children, teachers, with your hearts and your minds? Can you say we do? We do. We do. Thank you. Now, before these folks go on, I'm going to ask anybody who's teaching any of our adult faith development classes today, if you can stand up. You can remain in your seats. But I know we have a whole bunch of teachers and people that are leading things this year. So everybody can look around and see our fellow people and say thank you. And I'm going to ask you, As leaders in this congregation, in taking on this responsibility, you have committed yourselves to nurturing the spirit of your fellow members and friends in this congregation. Do you now promise before them and the congregation to do your best, to honor them, teach them, and nurture their religious growth as Unitarian Universalists? We do. And then finally, all the rest of the congregation. Do you, the members of Countryside Church, promise all of these teachers and young people that you will support them, knowing that religion cannot be taught only in the classroom, but must also be lived and encouraged in the home and beyond? Do you support that? We do. Now take up the challenge of good work. May all of you have fun, learn, and be a continuing example of the importance of education and exploration for all of us gathered here. Let us now sing our children and teachers off to their classrooms. A sacrament is an outward sign of an inward reality. This is the time in our service when we accept the offering. And that inward reality is that this church is made up from ourselves and the work of everyone's hand. So now Nancy is going to introduce our offering.
We give to support our church and community. Giving is a way to participate in love and blessings. Generosity opens us up to more love. It is a way to sow, to commit ourselves to a beloved community where we can inspire, heal, and belong. Together, we will reap the blessings to come. The offering will now be gratefully received. I invite you to take a deep breath in. Allow any anxiety or worry that carried in with you on your shoulders to just roll down your spine, your hips, your back, down through the bottoms of your feet into the rich, dark earth below us. Breathing in and then breathing out. We step into the silence with words by Rosemary Watola Tromer. And if it's true we are alone together, the way blades of grass are alone, but exist as a field. Sometimes I feel it, the green fuse that ignites us, the wild thrum that unites us, an inner hum that reminds us of our shared humanity.
Just as 35 trillion red blood cells join in one body to become one blood, just as 160,000 notes make up one symphony. Alone as we are, our small voices weave into the one big conversation. Our actions are essential to the one infinite story of what it is to be alive. When we feel alone, we belong to the grand communion of those who sometimes feel alone. We are the dust that hopes, a rising dust, a thrill of dust, the dust that dances in the light. With all the other dust, the dust that makes up the world. We recognize that as a community we carry within us many joys and many sorrows. If you have anything that comes up in your week, please do share with us. Share with the office, share with me. There's a pastoral care tab on the website. Any way you want to reach out, please do. Today, we're excited to welcome Melanie and Timothy and their 2 children, Isabella and Joseph, to Chalice House. The family arrived in the U.S. earlier this year from China by way of Malaysia. They speak Mandarin but understand English. There are many ways that we can support their transition to our community, and in our newsletter, in the Chalice House newsletter. So if that speaks to your heart to welcome them, please do. We also hold Matt Burdell and his family in our hearts as his dad entered hospice this past week. May love surround all of them and bring them peace and the ability to stay present as they accompany him on his journey. For all of those other intentions which remain in the silent sanctuary of our hearts, know that you are held and you are loved in this space. Please remain seated as we sing Spirit of Life.
In 1837, Henry David Thoreau described his friendship with Ralph Waldo Emerson in his journal. 2 sturdy oaks I mean, which side by side withstand the winter's storm, and, spite of wind and tide, grow up the meadow's pride, for both are strong. Above they barely touch, but undermined down to their deepest source, admiring you shall find their roots are intertwined inseparably. Our second reading is from Big Friendship by Aminatou Sow and Anne Friedman. Greek philosophers were obsessed with friendship as an essential virtue and a pillar of the good life. There is, they argued, no pleasure, fulfillment, or meaning without friendship. According to Aristotle, friends hold a mirror up to each other, The mirror allows them to see things they wouldn't be able to observe if they were holding the mirror to themselves. Think of this as the difference between a shaky selfie and a really clear portrait taken by someone else. Observing ourselves in the mirror of others is how we improve as people. We can see our flaws illuminated in a new way, but we can also notice the many good things we didn't know were there. Until a friend specifically requests you bring your lemon meringue pie to brunch, you might not realize you've become an excellent baker. Until a friend finds the courage to tell you that she never feels like you're listening to her, you might not realize this is how others are perceiving your chatterbox tendencies. After a third friend in a row calls you for help in asking for a raise, you might finally give yourself credit as a pretty good negotiator. Once you've seen yourself in the mirror of friendship, in both positive and challenging ways, the reflection cannot be unseen. Thus end the readings.
It's tough sometimes, tough to make friends as a man. Like, even if you really rock with somebody, you really respect them, you really admire them, and you might even tell them so, but you don't know how to cross over that next level to really be a friend. You know? And because it's not often communicated, a lot of men don't know they have friends. You have people that you're cool with, but then if somebody asks them and somebody asks you, you're both like, yeah, I guess we're friends. I mean, yeah, he cool. Like, what'd he say about me? Like, no, like, he cool. Like, I mean, like, I like Buddy. Like, he cool and everything, and I'm sure he think I'm cool, but like, I think we're friends, but it's also cool if we not. Like, we're not friends at all. Like, I don't care. We could be enemies for all I care. Like, let's get it. Oh, it's true. And then, you know, sometimes you don't realize how hard it is to make friends until you look around and you're like, oh, I don't feel like I have many. It's a thing that can happen subtly. You know, it's not something that comes all at once. You look around and you're like, oh, who would I really call if I was in trouble? Maybe just a few people, maybe genuinely. There's no one you feel comfortable making that call to, you know? And so you want to make friends, but it's tough to go out there and try to make friends as a man sometimes. And it doesn't have to be, but just think about it. Like, dudes always act like they don't know what they mean when a woman is like freaked out by a guy coming on too strong, but let a man just try to be your friend. As a man, walk up to another man and be like, I like your jeans. See how it goes.
Any other Josh Johnson fans out there? You guys know him? Yes. I love his rambling stories that always end up with some pretty hilarious and usually surprising conclusion. This clip was taken from a much longer set about men's struggles with friendship, and it actually inspired this service because it felt so real, so genuine to what not only men struggle with. Because friendship can be a tender topic sometimes. If you have a cadre of folk that you call friends, you might feel like you're just fine. But sometimes friendship can be harder to navigate than we might let on. You might think everybody else is doing great and you're the only one. You're struggling. And for folks who have struggled with friendship or have lost a good friend along the way, or more than one, it can activate some deep feelings. But I still think it's something important to touch upon and talk about together. Because it's one of the things that we think that everybody knows what it means to be a friend, but there are so many layers, and there's always so much more we can learn, especially as so many new studies are being done on friendship. And for a long time, they only studied romantic relationships or parent and child relationships, and they're finally figuring out that friend relationships are pretty darn important for our lives, for being happy, for getting through. Because the concept of friendship has changed drastically over the years. And most of the biggest changes were in response to how marriage was changing. In past times, working class folks, they would marry for a love or friendship. Well, the wealthy and the people who, wrote down everything, they married to keep wealth in the family, basically. Because originally marriage was a contract or an institution to keep wealth and resources from being spread out and losing them out of the family. And so during that time, the choice of a spouse was practical. It wasn't romantic. And there wasn't a lot of expectation for emotional support from that practical marriage contract. And so because of that, in the 19th century especially, same-sex friendships were incredibly strong. You may have read excerpts from letters between friends who wrote to each other over time. And the language they used, we'd call that romantic language today, wouldn't we? They would protestations of undying love, their eagerness to be together again, their deep sharing, and when they were together, their unconscious public displays of affection. Nobody looked at them twice. They were friends. But moving into the 20th century, and the middle and upper class folks, they started wanting to marry for love as well, rather than just money. And it became the norm over time for someone's spouse to be expected to fulfill all of their emotional needs. Your friendships were supposed to drop off once you got married, because the goal was just to get married, and then friends could go on their way. And in that time, those solid same-sex relationships that were so celebrated by earlier generations suddenly became suspect once those brand new psychologists had pathologized queer relationships. So now if you held hands in public, people look at you funny. You can imagine, not a lot of people were getting their needs met during that time. But over the last century, we've moved through different ways of thinking about friendship. The swell of middle-class incomes in the 60s and 70s and 50s, 60s, and 70s ushered in many available spaces for male bonding. There were bowling teams and sports events and pubs to go to, and many opportunities for women to gather in their own groups away from the guys. Garden clubs, book clubs, volunteer things. Gen X gave us the definitive version of friendship with the TV series Friends, right? But even that was following in a long line of shows celebrating friendship, starting with maybe Lucy and Ethel on I Love Lucy, Happy Days, Golden Girls, Cheers, Seinfeld, Big Bang Theory, more recently Gracie and Frank. Jenny, have favorites that I miss? Yes. Grace and Vicky, yes. Any others? Any other favorite friendship shows? There's a lot of them out there. I could probably go. Movie 2. Yeah, that's true. Community. I forgot about that one too. These are all groups of people who like to hang out, who sometimes get into trouble together, who rescue one another, get mad at each other, make up, but basically hang on through thick and thin and make us all laugh along the way. And I believe that's what we often think of when we think of friends today in our context, even though the world has changed drastically. And what is happening in our lives might not match up with what we've seen on our screens in the past. Because our country is experiencing an epidemic of loneliness. You can read about it any place you turn. And that loneliness is bringing with itself rising levels of depression and anxiety and anger and even violence. Young white men in particular see these depictions of connected people and wonder why they don't have that. See other people being loved and wonder why they don't feel it themselves. Almost every single mass murder event with a gun in this country ends up being an angry, lonely man deciding to take out a bunch of other people while they kill themselves. What is about our current version of society that creates so many disconnected people? Because I think we can see any of those events without seeing them as a cry for attention from people who feel like they don't matter in the world. And they want somebody to know they mattered, even if it's in a very ugly, horrible, terrible way. Friendship can be the antidote for that anger, that isolation, that feeling of nobody caring whether you live or die. And I've been thinking a lot about this lately, and I'm really hopeful that most of you in this room, because you found your way here, with lots and lots of places where you can connect, are not feeling that level of loneliness. But still, even here, it can be hard to connect sometimes. I definitely understand that. And another aspect of the hardship of making friends today is that we are so busy and life feels so overwhelming, and there's always this level of fear of missing out. FOMO is what it's called. And so no matter what you're doing, you feel like other people are doing it better. Other people are having a better time. You see all the people on our screens hang gliding or bowling or whatever they're doing, looking like they're having so much fun, even if they're standing around on billboards smoking cigarettes. They just look like they're having fun, right? And why are we sitting here with the difficulties of our own lives, and we end up thinking that maybe we're doing something wrong? But the reality is that real friendship can only develop slowly over time, over the time that it takes to build trust. There's a best-selling book by Amanatu Soh and Anne Friedman titled Big Friendship: How We Keep Each Other Close, and explores modern friendship through the lens of their own challenges as a friend couple. They tell their own story from their early, just out of college days, through their deepening big friendship, and they both felt it was a big friendship, and then a growing apart that they could feel but didn't know what to do about, finally a challenging reconnection, and they end with the intention and the thoughts of what they're going to do to maintain that friendship going forward. They note many of the ways that friendships grow and how all of a sudden they fall apart again. They hosted a very popular podcast called Call Your Girlfriend that numbered hundreds of thousands of followers when that was a little bit harder to do. And they portrayed a version of friendship that they discovered was harder to maintain in real life than it was to talk about on their podcast. Isn't that life as always, huh? And even despite all of that, they came up with some really interesting ideas. One that they called the shine theory. And that says, if I don't shine, then you don't shine. Or if you don't shine, I don't shine. It says that, well, sometimes we have these myths that women can be catty to each other or try to hold each other back or be jealous of each other's success. The reality is, and the data says, that the people who support each other and are thrilled for each other's successes, those are the people that actually have the deepest and best friendships. And those are the people that actually succeed, even in business and places where you'd think that would not be true. Because helping someone else helps you to be your best self. And trusting that even if it gets way out of balance, one person starts making a ton of money and the other one's still at their post-college level, eventually it's going to work out. Eventually things will balance out, people will give what they can give, and just trusting that'll be true. And that's one of their baseline things of how we can be together well. Another one was the term of stretching. And that's the idea that we can't stay comfortable in our friendships all the time. That sometimes we have to stretch ourselves out of our comfort zone. Sometimes we have to talk when we want to be quiet, or we have to be quiet when we want to talk. Sometimes we have to really look at ourselves and what we're bringing to situations rather than just placing the blame outside of ourselves, which is the easier thing to do. And sometimes it's our friends that are going to be the ones that hold up that mirror and say, maybe you should look at this. And if we have that trust, then we can do that growth ourselves. And finally, they stress the importance of knowing when to ask for help, claiming that Our friendships are actually so important to our health and well-being that if it's not going well, we need to find some way to step in, whether it means getting therapy together, as these two did, or going in other directions, or asking another friend to help. We have to do something to reclaim that friendship instead of just letting it drift away and figuring you'll find somebody else. Because whatever issues were in that friendship, you'll probably take with you to your next friendship. So you might as well stay and do the work. Now, Anne and Amanatu are two women who made it through hard times, and they retained their big, important friendship. But women generally aren't the people that are out there killing people, are they? What about the men? Why are so many modern men so lonesome? There are podcasts out there for men, lots of books. One called Man of the Year is hosted by Matt Ritter and Aaron Caro, and was recently claimed to be the #1 friendship podcast by the New York Times. And I have just a little clip, I think.
So tell us, why are you guys friends for 35 years? Really, what is the foundation of your friendship?
Well, we always distill friendship down to 2 words: showing up. And Matt has always showed up for me, whether it's when I need him, whether it's supporting me at one of my shows, whether it's just being a good friend, and I like to think I've done that for him.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I would also say just, talking about what is a deep, true friend is just, we always talk about this, like somebody you can laugh about the same story over and over and over and over again. It's just like these shared memories, is a big part of it, but I think you also have to grow with the person. It can't just be thinking back on things. It has to be like, who am I now and how do you support that? And Aaron's just the most supportive person that I know.
We say that a friend should help you grow, not change.
A friend should help you grow, not change. Wraps around it. How do we see people? How do we help them to be the fullest people they are as we're becoming the fullest people we possibly can? These guys were friends for 35 years, so they might have learned a thing or two along the way, because big shifts can happen over time in friendships. I still have friendships from first grade and freshman year of high school. These are long-term friendships that feel more like family, but it didn't start out that great. I never really felt like I was part of that group in high school. I hung out with them, they let me tag along, but I always felt like I was on the edge. I was the weird one, the odd girl out. I was lonely in a crowd. And it was only because in our 20s, one of those friends got divorced and started inviting us over every Friday to play cards and maybe drink a little, that our friendships solidified, and it became an every Friday night thing. We got together, we spent time together. We got to know each other in totally different ways as we grew together and supported each other through the things that come up. We called that friend our cruise director. She made the fun happen, and I am so grateful for her even now, because I know I wouldn't still have that group of friends if it wasn't for her. But if I had focused on our differences back then, instead of staying connected because I thought that's what I was supposed to do, I wouldn't have those rich relationships today. I stayed in it, and now we can look back on all the things we walked with each other through. Because real friendships, deep friendships, take time. You can't cut corners, because if you're all in a minute, you might be all out the next minute. A University of Kansas researcher named Jeffrey Hall timed the early stages of friendship and found they're measurable. He says that people consider themselves casual friends after 30 hours spent together. I bet a bunch of you have been here 30 Sundays or more, so you're all casual friends because you come here every Sunday. 50 hours moves you up to solid friend with no qualifiers after 50 hours spent together. It takes 140 hours before folks start calling you a good friend. And then there's finally, the final thing is we have best friends after we've been together at least 300 hours. That sounds like a lot, but in reality it's only 12 and a half days. 12 and a half days of being with people. It would be day and night, but still. The tricky part, a la Josh Johnson, is to be brave enough to push forward and be vulnerable. To invite somebody out for coffee or to see a movie or to have dinner together, to be able to withstand the possibility of them saying no and still reach out to another person. Because it's hard to put yourself out there. It's hard to risk being hurt. We are living in risk-averse times. And if you can just reach out and say, I like your jeans, maybe something will happen that wouldn't have happened otherwise. While all genders fall across a spectrum of friendships, researchers know that there are differences between what are called male and women, male activities and female activities. And they contribute to the imbalance in male friendships. Because men tend to bond over sporting events or multiplayer video games or discussion groups, places where the focus is on the group, not on the individual. Because they haven't been raised sometimes with comfortable feelings language, it's easier to argue over politics or sports than it is to discuss hopes and fears. And typically male activities don't leave a lot of room for in-depth one-on-one time. Typically, women tend to prefer situations like lunch dates or movie nights on the couch, where it's easier to center the self and connect and go deeper. Of course, there's no gender-specific observations which include everyone, but the kind of situations in which you grow your friendships will determine the speed and depth at which they grow. Admittedly, you can have deep conversations over video games, and you can go out as a couple and never ever have those vulnerable conversations. So the reality, it's the ability to share of yourself and to grow together that really creates those bonds. I've done a lot of research for this service because I just kept finding more and more things that I could talk about. And there's so many interesting things, and the adult faith development folks have a class on friendship in the works. So please let me or Pat or Susan know if you'd be interested in taking that class on how to keep and maintain friendships, because I think we all could learn a little bit of help sometimes. Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau were friends in the 19th century. Life was much simpler then, but they managed to inspire each other, to stretch and grow together, to create friendship webs, which they called salons, where they had deep conversations, where they even invited women. And the group eventually became known as the Transcendentalists, and they created The Dial. It was a periodical reflecting on the exciting and revolutionary ideas floating around the country at this time. You could think of it as the podcast for the 19th century. This connection between them helped them each grow and be their best selves, and helped them think beyond the boundaries of their age to imagine a new reality. And we still learn from them today. But what do we need? What do we need here and now? How can we deepen existing friendships, forge new ones, and open up space for all of us to live into our best selves? When we look for real friends, we look and we try to act as people that are authentic and vulnerable. We try to be and make space for someone to ugly cry without judgment. We try to be a person that pays attention and sees the core of the human being in front of us who just needs to be loved and seen, and then offer the core of ourselves up to the world so that someone may love and see us. These are the basic building blocks of friendship, of being human and connected at any level. If we could find a way to reach out to the isolated young men in the world, find ways to teach them tools for connecting, to teach them that being vulnerable is often the best path to being connected, we might make this whole country a safer and better place. And it might all begin with simply making a friend. Amen, and blessed be. closing words are by Scott Taylor. Having received sanctuary for our heavy hearts, may we make shelter for those feeling alone. Having been renewed in spirit, may we remind others why hope is always worth the risk. Having returned to the truth of our interconnection, may we remember that injustice afflicted on one is injustice afflicted on all. And having received the blessings of belonging, may we work to widen the circles that have kept others out for far too long.
Please join me in saying our closing words together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of its truth, nor the warmth of this community, nor the fire of our commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with all the world. Blessed be.